Okay. So, the first moment in the series where Snape's anger seems to get the best of him is Prisoner of Azkaban in the Shrieking Shack. So, Sirius and Lupin and the trio are all in the Shrieking Shack, and Sirius is telling them this whole, epic story about how the Marauders became friends and everything, and then Snape barges in. And he just completely freaks out. Hermione is like, but can't we just hear them out, trying to be all sensible? And instead, Snape yells, in caps lock, "Keep quiet, you stupid girl," Snape shouted, looking suddenly quite deranged. "Don't talk about what you don't understand." Okay. Snape has never been described as deranged before, and yet here it says that there was a mad glint in Snape's eyes that Harry had never seen before, and that he seemed beyond reason. And Snape never really shouts, because, quote, he has the gift of keeping a class quiet without really trying. And yet here he is in full-on caps lock. And then, of course, Harry has to open his big mouth and be like, "You're just mad because Sirius made a fool of you." And once again, Snape yells back at him, in caps lock, "Silence! I will not be spoken to like that," Snape shrieked, looking madder than ever. "Like father, like son, Potter. You would have been well served if he'd killed you. You'd have died like your father, too arrogant to believe you might be mistaken in Black. Now get out of the way or I will make you. Get out of the way, Potter." Whoa. Whoa. Totally not the Snape we've usually seen. Usually Snape will come up with some biting remarks that will really get under Harry's skin using his, sarcastic wit. And here he's just, yelling like a psycho. And I think if you dig a bit deeper into this quote, it makes sense. He says, "You have died like your father, too arrogant to believe you might be mistaken in Black." So, who else died because, quote, James was mistaken in Black? Lily. The woman Snape loved. Pretty much, whenever Snape's emotions get the better of him, it always has to do with Lily. And as he sees it, Lily died because of James's arrogance in believing in Sirius Black. And now, Harry's making the same mistake. And, okay, Snape hates the kid, right? But he has devoted the last 12 years of his life to keeping this kid alive. And if he just, died because he made the same stupid mistake, that would just really suck for Snape. Really. Well, we know what happens then. The trio all disarm Snape and knock him out, which really has to suck for Snape because he wants revenge on Sirius for, causing Lily's death. And, it's within his grasp. He's right there. He can get that revenge. And then that chance is snatched from him by his 3 least favorite Gryffindors. Really no wonder he's pissed off. So then, there's a lot more talking, there's a Dementor attack, blah, 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 and then the trio ends up in the hospital wing. Sirius is about to get the Dementor's kiss, and Snape told the minister some epic tale of how he rescued the trio, and he was their savior, and all that good stuff. Right? And, of course, the trio starts yelling, "No, you got it all wrong, Pettigrew's alive," and Snape told the minister that these kids have been confounded, but, the trio won't give up, so they keep yelling this, and then Dumbledore walks in, and then, this is really interesting, you don't actually believe them, do you? Snape snarls at Dumbledore. He snarls at Dumbledore. Snape doesn't really snarl at Dumbledore most of the time. I mean, Snape doesn't like Dumbledore at all, because Dumbledore really doesn't treat him well. But he always shows Dumbledore respect, at least to his face. But here he's snarling at Dumbledore, and then, when Hermione keeps on talking, he yells at Hermione with, no provocation, "Miss Granger, hold your tongue!" And this is in front of everyone. Again, this is in caps lock. And it's this guy is off his rocker. So then, Hermione and Harry time travel, rescue Sirius, and make it back to the hospital room. And then Snape hears about this, and he completely loses it. This passage is all in caps lock. He didn't disapparate, Snape roared, now very close at hand. You can't apparate or disapparate inside this castle. This has something to do with Potter. Snape was beside himself. Out with it, Potter, he bellowed. What did you do? And Fudge, who's just like, whoa, crazy person, is like, see here, Snape, be reasonable, said Fudge. This door's been locked. We just saw. They helped him escape. I know it! Snape howled, pointing at Ron and Hermione. His face was twisted. Spit was flying from his mouth. Calm down, man, Fudge barked. You're talking nonsense. You don't know Potter, shrieked Snape. He did it! I know he did it! What? I mean, this is ridiculous. Just so you can appreciate how ridiculous this is. He's yelling at these poor, 13 and 14-year-old kids, complete nonsense, in front of the Minister of Magic and Albus Dumbledore. In other words, the two most important people in all of, Wizarding Britain. It's crazy. He's just lost it, spit is flying from his mouth. So, yeah, he's just livid here, because the man who supposedly was responsible for Lily's death escaped. He was foiled by his 3 least favorite students and made a complete fool of. So, yeah, here Snape is legitimately furious. Now, the other moment when Snape's anger seems to really get the best of him is almost 2 years later in Order of the Phoenix. So, Dumbledore, in a stroke of brilliance, makes Snape give occlumency lessons to Harry. Why he thought this would work, I don't know. But Snape gives Harry these occlumency lessons, and doesn't go well. And then, Montague gets shoved into a vanishing cabinet, there's some chaos, and Snape has to rush off from a lesson, and he leaves the pensieve with his memories in it. And Harry, being Harry, naturally dives into the memories. And we all know what he sees. It's Snape's worst memory. It shows how the Marauders humiliated Snape, and Lily came to his rescue, and he called her a mudblood, and he alienated her forever. And Snape pulls him out of the memory, and this passage is rather interesting as well. So, said Snape, gripping Harry's arm so tightly Harry's hand was starting to feel numb. So, been enjoying yourself, Potter? It was scary. Snape's lips were shaking. His face was white. His teeth were bared. Amusing man your father, wasn't he? Said Snape, shaking Harry so hard that his glasses slipped down his nose. I didn't. Snape threw Harry from him with all his might. Harry fell hard onto the dungeon floor. You will not tell anybody what you saw, Snape bellowed. No, said Harry, getting to his feet as far away from Snape as he could. No, of course I won't. Get out, get out. I don't want to see you in this office ever again. And as Harry hurtled toward the door, a jar of dead cockroaches exploded over his head. Okay, so obviously Snape is kind of ticked off here as well. Because, let's face it, this is a complete invasion of privacy. The nerve that Harry has diving into his private memories is just, astonishing. But it is Harry after all. So, Snape is ticked off here, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's at that point of, fury as he was in Prisoner of Azkaban. For starters, he's not described as crazy or, mad or, twisted or anything like that. And for another thing, no caps lock. Even in Half-Blood Prince, when Snape yells, "Don't call me coward," that's in caps lock, and he is, quote, looks inhuman and demented. Here, no caps lock, no italics. We get, one measly exclamation point. What is up with that? And Joe Rowling's writing style, is nothing if not consistent. So, something is up here. why isn't Snape as angry as he was last time? Now, one popular theory, and this theory has been circling around like 7 years now, is that this was all an act put on for Harry's benefit, right? That Snape wanted to show Harry how awful his parents were, and used this memory to do it. And to be honest, I don't buy it. I didn't really buy it after Order of the Phoenix came out, when I read it on MuggleNet or Leaky, and I still don't buy it when I read it on the Harry Potter Companion. So, the reason I don't buy it is that, first of all, why would Snape choose this memory of all memories? I mean, think about it. This guy has 7 years of being tormented by the Marauders. I'm sure he could find a better example. I mean, because let's face it, this memory didn't exactly cast him in a good light as well, right? I mean, you know, he attacks James when his back is turned, and then Lily comes to his rescue, and he's suspended in the air, showing off his underwear for everyone to see. Like, somehow I just don't see Snape wanting to show Harry that. And why would he show Harry his worst memory? I mean, everyone figured out, even before Deathly Hallows, that the reason it's his worst memory is because it was the end of his friendship with Lily, not because this was any, like, special bullying that the Marauders did. And, yeah. So, why would he choose the one where Lily is involved? Wouldn't he just try to leave her out of it? And then there's just the fact that Snape is, in general, a very private person. You know, we really don't hear much about his background. He never shares any information about his personal life. So just, it doesn't really ring true for me. You know, one argument for the theory is why then would he just, like, deposit his memories in front of Harry? And I'll tell you why. Because it's Snape, and because it's a form of gloating for him. You know, here, my memories are perfectly safe in this pensieve. Yours are all fair game. Yeah. You know, it's Snape snarkily asserting his dominance over his students. It's what he does. So, if it's not all an act, and yet he's not that angry, what's going on?